Hey guys, welcome to my channel today. I want to tell you prepare yourself because are you constantly battling exhaustion, feeling wired and tired, or waking up with a sense of anxiety that just won't shake? What if there was a single, immensely powerful key to unlocking boundless energy, achieving deeper sleep, and fundamentally transforming your overall well-being, even if burnout has you feeling trapped? Today, on the Huberman Lab podcast, we're diving into exactly that, a topic so crucial, so profoundly impactful, that if you absorb nothing else from our scientific discussions, this episode alone could revolutionize your health. I'm Andrew Huberman, a professor of neurobiology and ophthalmology at Stanford School of Medicine, and I can't stress enough the significance of what we're about to explore, cortisol. Specifically, we'll uncover precisely how to master your cortisol levels to not only prevent the insidious creep of burnout, but also, for those already caught in its grasp, how to decisively overcome it. As you're about to discover, cortisol isn't just another hormone. Its intricate dance throughout your day and night fundamentally dictates your mood, sleep quality, immune function, and your long-term sense of vitality. Understanding and harnessing this biological lever is arguably the single most potent tool you possess for optimizing your health and well-being. Most people associate cortisol with stress, and it's true that this hormone is produced and released in response to stressful situations. However, to label cortisol solely as a stress hormone is a vast oversimplification that misses its incredibly diverse and often beneficial functions. While it certainly plays a role in our stress response, cortisol is fundamentally involved in a multitude of other vital processes that are absolutely essential for your daily functioning and overall health. The crucial factor isn't just if you have cortisol, but how much you have, and critically, when you have it. This brings us to a central theme for today's discussion: your cortisol rhythm. Specifically your 24-hour circadian rhythm of cortisol. If you take away only one piece of information from this entire conversation, let it be this. You want your cortisol levels to be high in the early morning, shortly after waking, and ideally very low in the hours leading up to sleep and during the initial stages of sleep. Establishing and maintaining this natural daily rhythm is the bedrock upon which all other aspects of health, wellness, and peak performance are built and reinforced. So, how do you achieve this optimal cortisol rhythm, and what happens when it goes awry? We'll delve into the mechanics of what short-term stress does to cortisol, which surprisingly can be beneficial, versus the detrimental effects of prolonged chronic stress that often culminates in burnout. If you find yourself in that all-too common state of feeling wired and tired, lacking morning energy, or experiencing that paradox of daytime fatigue combined with nighttime insomnia, or even morning anxiety, understand this. A significant, often complete resolution to these challenging symptoms can be found by recalibrating your cortisol rhythm. To truly understand and gain control over this vital hormone, we must first shift our perspective. Cortisol isn't merely a stress hormone. Its primary role is far more fundamental. Cortisol is the master conductor orchestrating the deployment and direction of energy to the tissues in your body that need it most at any given moment. Let me reiterate this crucial point. Cortisol should be conceptualized as a hormone that triggers the release of energy throughout the body, specifically directing that energy towards particular tissues, most notably your brain. This energy deployment allows you to effectively navigate not only stressors, but also all the myriad demands of daily life that require energy. The mechanism is fascinating. Cortisol prompts the release of glucose or blood sugar into your bloodstream by drawing on energy reserves from your liver and muscles. It's important to note that cortisol isn't produced in the brain. Rather, it's synthesized in your adrenal glands, which also produce adrenaline, epinephrine. While adrenaline provides a rapid response to stress, cortisol operates on a slightly slower timescale, needing to be manufactured before release. However, its influence extends beyond immediate stress responses, encompassing pretty much anything that demands your energy, from waking up and tackling a challenging work task to simply driving your kids to school. This broader understanding provides a completely different lens through which to view cortisol, moving beyond the common misconception that elevated cortisol is always inherently bad. You need cortisol to release glucose into your bloodstream, powering your activities. What makes cortisol unique compared to hormones like adrenaline is its lipophilic nature. It loves fat. Since cell membranes are composed of lipids, fats, cortisol can easily pass through them, including the crucial blood-brain barrier. Once in the brain, it finds numerous receptors, particularly in the hippocampus, a region vital for memory. We'll revisit the hippocampus later to understand its role in chronic stress and cortisol dysregulation. But for now, remember that cortisol's primary function is to unleash glucose, much of which fuels your brain, enabling nerve cells to think, process information, and engage with your environment, whether confronting a stressful challenge or enjoying a non-stressful moment. My deepest hope is that this episode helps you, and indeed the world, adopt this more accurate understanding. Cortisol is not solely a stress hormone. It is, first and foremost, an energy-producing, and more specifically, a brain energy-producing hormone. Before we delve deeper into the intricate choreography of cortisol throughout your day, I want to take a moment to acknowledge our sponsors. This podcast is a part of my ongoing commitment to delivering zero-cost, science-based information and tools to the general public, and the support of our sponsors helps make that mission possible. Now, let's return to the critical concept we touched upon earlier, the ideal daily cortisol rhythm. We established that you want cortisol to be high in the morning, right after waking, and low at night, particularly during the initial hours of sleep. However, there's a nuance. In the final hours of sleep, your cortisol levels actually begin to rise. To gain true control over cortisol at any moment, day or night, it's essential to understand why it's released, when it's released, and how this process unfolds. Simply listing actions to increase or decrease cortisol would be insufficient, as your levels are in constant flux throughout the 24-hour cycle. Without comprehending this inherent endogenous rhythm, not just that it's high in the morning and low at night, but how it's regulated, you won't truly know which protocols or tools to apply at the right time. But by understanding both the 24-hour rhythm and how cortisol is released in response to short-term events like stress or even the demands of exercise or focus, you'll gain immense moment-to-moment control. Cortisol is a corticosteroid hormone derived from cholesterol, much like testosterone and estrogen. Scientists have long recognized that cortisol levels fluctuate significantly over a 24-hour period. A classic study on the episodic secretion of cortisol in healthy individuals identified 4 distinct phases of cortisol levels that occur throughout a typical day and night. Phase 1, lasting about 6 hours, is characterized by minimal secretory activity, meaning very little cortisol is released. This period begins approximately 4 hours before you typically turn out the lights for sleep and continues for about 2 hours after you've fallen asleep. This is your ideal low cortisol window. The second phase, a 3-hour window often referred to as the preliminary nocturnal secretory episode, occurs during the 3rd to 5th hour of sleep. During this phase, cortisol levels begin to show a slight, gradual increase. This gentle rise sets the stage for the more dramatic changes to come. Following this, phase 3 marks the main secretory phase of cortisol, a 4-hour period where cortisol levels increase very rapidly. Crucially, this significant surge happens during the 6th, 7th, and 8th hours of sleep. This means if you only sleep 6 hours, you're missing out on a substantial portion of this natural rapid cortisol rise. Sleeping 7 hours captures more of it, and 8 or 9 hours allows for the full duration of this steep increase. This late sleep cortisol surge coincides with the period when REM, rapid eye movement, sleep is most abundant. In the earlier part of your sleep, slow-wave deep sleep predominates, characterized by low metabolism and a reduced need for blood glucose, aligning perfectly with those initially low cortisol levels. As sleep progresses into its final hours and REM sleep intensifies, your brain becomes incredibly active, sometimes even more active than during waking states. For this robust brain activity, energy is paramount, and that energy comes from blood glucose, deployed precisely by rising cortisol. Finally, phase 4 encompasses the period after you wake up. This phase begins immediately upon awakening, and within it, there's a critical subphase, the first hour after you open your eyes and decide to get out of bed, whether roused by an alarm or naturally. This initial hour is uniquely powerful because it offers a singular opportunity to further amplify that morning cortisol surge. Once this window, typically 60 to 90 minutes, passes, that specific chance to boost your cortisol for the day is gone until the next morning. While you can influence your cortisol levels later in the day, that first hour sets the foundational rhythm. Putting this into real-world terms, the ideal scenario for optimal health, mental clarity, physical well-being, and performance unfolds as follows. Your cortisol is optimally very low in the hours before and during the initial part of your sleep. Then, naturally and without conscious effort, cortisol begins its ascent as you transition from the middle to the end of your sleep cycle. Just before you wake, cortisol levels are rising sharply, creating a steep upward slope. Upon waking, you have this precious hour-long window to intentionally enhance that rise, which is profoundly beneficial. After approximately 3 to 4 hours post-waking, for most, this is late morning or around noon, your cortisol levels will gradually begin to decline. The key is for this decline to be neither too rapid nor too slow. Ideally, it tapers off gently enough that by 3 to 4 hours before sleep, your cortisol levels are consistently low and continue to fall, ready to restart the cycle the following morning in anticipation of your awakening. Indeed, you literally wake up because of this natural rise in cortisol, a phenomenon known as the cortisol awakening response, or CAR. The immense importance of cortisol in initiating wakefulness and promoting morning alertness cannot be overstated. This is your primary point of leverage. By optimizing what you do during that crucial first 60 to 90 minutes of your day, you lay the groundwork for a healthy, balanced cortisol pattern throughout the entire 24-hour cycle, setting yourself up for success both day and night. So stay with us as we now delve into the precise mechanisms behind how this powerful cortisol rhythm is generated.